it's really important to be able to have that flexibility moving forward, because we don't, trends obviously come and go. I mean, Reformer was here 25 years, and guess what? It's back even, bigger and louder than what it ever has been.
L.I.F.T.S as a brand actually, for those of you who are new to the industry, invented the category. Like the fitness equipment category is kind of created in the commercial sense by the Life Cycle and L.I.F.T.S.
We worked hard on that and the logistics side of it, making sure that we had the ability to source product from different countries, so we weren't in a tough situation if something like a political challenge came on, like we're seeing here with tariffs and just the tightening and obviously inflation at this point as well.
So I think for the first time we have Michelle Dan on L.I.F.T.S. Michelle, you are the director of head of fitness programming. I knew I butchered that, but why don't you
Well,
tell us
I
your title?
introduce myself.
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Michelle Dand. I am the head of fitness products and programming for David Lloyd.
So that's much better than what I did.
Yeah,
much better.
There you go.
So within that role, you have what's called the branded Group X as well, and not the non-branded, which would be like a Les Mills or something else, which you also, I believe, support, right?
Support is correct. Yeah. Probably don't drive and my focus is actually how do we innovate the next set of our brands, because that's what brings more value to our members, because actually you can't get a Blaze or a Spirit or Ignite elsewhere. So I concentrate on how do we innovate those, or have sub-brands from those, depending on what's happening in the wellness space.
I've got an interesting question, because I've been very familiar with when that sort of whole concept started. Yep. And that was at the time when the boutique market was really starting. In fact, I understood, from what I remember,
you created the first Blaze with us.
Yeah, that's right, actually. But before that, I think you guys were the first Orange Theory franchisee in the UK as well. So if we go back to that time, like where boutique was in the UK market, I guess David Lloyd would have been the first big box brand to sort of figure out, well, rather than opening individual studios, we're going to incorporate this into our whole offering. How has that tracked for your business in comparison to how the boutiques have sort of essentially sort of boomed and kind of leveled off in many cases, particularly in the UK market? I
think if we went back to, one of the reasons we went with Blaze was we saw the boutiques coming and we're like, we need to react. So therefore we created our own. And if you think about also at that time, it was really a one modality of training. And that was it. It was very HIIT, or it was cycle, et cetera, et cetera. What the pandemic, provided us for was a bit of a reality check when people came back, that actually I want a more 360 view of wellness. I want to be able to train, but I also want to be able to recover. And we know that mental health was actually on the, the up. So therefore, we had to relook and say, okay, how do we and what do we do to create products that are going to service our members from a holistic perspective? So we worked very hard on what I'm going to say is bringing aspirational, let's say, boutique style offerings to the masses, because the masses within our clubs would never normally step foot into a One Rebel or a Barry's boot camp, because they feel intimidated coming into some of our classes, let alone going to somewhere where normally most people are fit. So the whole purpose was, how do we bring boutique style fitness with the experience, both from a design perspective and from a people perspective, and with a purpose, into our club, so actually they don't need to go elsewhere. And by doing that with Blaze, it was almost replicated with Battlebox, our strength training outdoors, with Spirit, more of our holistic perspective. So we just then built, and actually at that time we decided not to bring Les Mills back into the fold, apart from Body Pump. And people ask us now, are you going to, get rid of Les Mills? And I'm like, no, because actually it's not broken, so we're not going to fix it. But we've certainly, from those, let's say, 6 brands that we've actually got 16 offcuts, and that's little flowers that have grown off them, because Spirit holds not just Spirit, but it has Spirit Sound Meditation, because we got into sound meditation quite early. It's got Spirit Dance Meditation, which is more a static dance with the headphones. It's got Spirit Rebels, which is our family brand. So if you're an 8 to 13-year-old, you can bring your child or your child can bring you to a spirit class. And actually, so it's that brand that's gone through, and that's what we've done with Blaze, we've done with BattleBox, and we've almost to the point where we're sort of combining our Ignite, which is our high energy, and our Spirit Rebels into one. So actually, if kids can only come once or twice with their parents, they get a 360 view of a bit of cardio, they get a bit of strength, and they get that holistic bit. So we're sort of going that 360. But I suppose more importantly, for me, the purpose is we are teaching the next generation that fitness is fun, because they drop out of sport, maybe from an early age. They then go and do what? Whereas if we can get them in with their families to go to a gym or go to an environment or go to these boutique style classes, that then allows them to think, well, actually, this is fun, I quite like it, and be really familiar as they grow older, and it's just something that you do. It's like brushing your teeth. So I think that's where we're sort of really diversified what we do to the masses and then to our families, because that's what we do. You know, we are known for our breadth of offering, and that's just the group exercise part of it. So that's why I probably stick with the brands rather than the others.
So if you contrast that to what happened to some of the other brands, then, like you obviously it's been very successful. How you know what do you think hasn't quite worked with some of the standalone businesses, and is that really your advantage because you're sort of pulling in all those other things?
I think, you know, remember, we did do a standalone boutique. So we did a Blaze boutique, literally opened January 2020, closed March 2020, because, you know, and I think the lesson learned coming back from that is actually a one modality offering, you know, now just isn't what people are looking for, whether you're young or whether you're old. So I actually, if I was looking at building a boutique now, you've probably heard of Sweat and Tonic in Toronto.
I actually have not.
Okay, they have, this would be my dream, so do go and look it up, because they have, what they have is 3 boxes and a wellness hub. The 3 boxes are, now at the moment they've got HIIT, they've got Cycle, and they've got a yoga Pilates. So they've got your 360 offering there, yeah? They've got your recovery hub where they offer red light therapy, contrast therapy, all other types of, what I say, you know, recovery therapies. They've then got this beautiful, what they call House of Tonic, think Soho House, where people socialise. And they've also got hybrid, a perspective as in hybrid working. Mm-hmm. So for me, the clever thing of what they've done is if something goes out of fashion, if cycling is no longer, I'm going to rip it out and I'm going to put something else in. And for me, I think it's really important to be able to have that flexibility moving forward, because we don't, you know, trends obviously come and go. I mean, Reformer was here 25 years and guess what? It's back even, you know, bigger and louder than what it ever has been. So I think it's being able to look at the flexibility. And if you have more modalities, there's more stickiness. There's more reasons for me to keep coming back. Now, the aggregators and, you know, Wellness Hub, my son is, you know, a Wellness Hub user. Well, he's not loyal to any brand because he can go wherever he likes within the city, and he quite likes it because it covers his holistic view. Does that make sense? So if I was looking at something from the London scene, which One Rebel do quite well because they've got different modalities and different places. The Netherlands, Saints and Stars, they've again got 3 studios with different modalities. That's certainly where I believe is a good model. But if you speak to some of the aggregators at the moment about these budget, you know, performances that are going to be coming through, we might be surprised.
Do you view then the budget boutique more as a threat compared to the regular boutique because there's one single modality versus one is more akin to what you're doing?
I don't. This sounds a little bit arrogant, maybe. I don't think boutiques are a threat to David Lloyd. The reason being is we don't go after their market. And you know, if you look at the typical boutique market, they are probably younger, a little bit more trendier. Although, saying that, if you're a reformer, you're all ages. But we offer all of that. So actually, there is no need to necessarily go elsewhere. So I think from our perspective, we've added value to people's membership and we've kept them staying with us. I think if you're a single modality and you've got these boutiques, budget boutiques as they call them, coming through that are offering, rather than £25, it's costing you £13 a class, that's going to hurt, whichever way you look at it.
And do you find that people that belong to these budget boutiques will also want to have a regular gym membership?
We know that at the start of or pre-pandemic, we would have members that would go to boutiques because we didn't offer what they were offering, let's say. That doesn't happen now. So I would imagine they can afford to, really. I mean, at the end of the day, if I want to have a membership and then just go and pay £10, £12
just to get that
to
experience.
get that experience, so be it.
And I noticed that you have 2 rings on. I've been looking at that. You've got 2 wearables on. You got 3 rings on. But you
I
two
have,
wearables.
yes.
So
Playing around.
what are you wearing? Both Matt and I have the Aura ring on. What do you have on?
I have an Aura,
Okay.
but I am trialing out the Ultra Human.
We're hearing that
Just
a lot,
to
yeah.
see whether there's any difference in the data that it's telling me. I can tell you that if I drink alcohol, both tell me it's bad. So that is. And one of the reasons I was trying this is this also comes with glucose monitoring. So that, for me, when we're looking at the gut bio for someone of my age who needs to look at their blood sugar levels because, you know, of menopause and everything else, it actually does make a big difference. So it is interesting. We weren't asked in there about wearables, but for me, you know, boutiques, I'd be going, you need to look at wellness. You need to look at tech and how that's integrated, or your ecosystem, whichever way you look at it, and then what your purpose is really. Because for me, I'm not quite sure. I think some boutiques have lost their purpose apart from making money. Whereas if you go back to, you know, all the years ago, it was communities.
That they've also lost that.
Yeah,
Money part.
yeah. So for me, tech is, you know, we should know what people are, even the fact that you've got it on is the fact is, I know that you're interested in your health. That should be the first conversation at least.
I've been a member of David Lloyd before I moved to the US for many years, like probably 10 or 15 years, or it was Next Gen and then it became David Lloyd. And I came back and this weekend I checked out a few of your clubs, and obviously I'm quite close to what happens through my brother with your organization, but I definitely noticed a step change in your organization probably just prior to the pandemic. And you know, as an outsider, it seemed to be very clear that you seemed to have really dialed in on who your member was, and also what was really important with them. Because you know, after going in, you know, I was in Notting Hill or 2 of the harbour clubs, and you could, you know, you could instantly tell that you got what was important to the members. And it seemed as though you kind of really understood exactly who those people were. And you mentioned sort of, you know, kids and, you know, for me, I'm, you know, sort of couples or families and that sort of stuff. So is it just that I just noticed an evolution in the brand, or had there been a real sort of step change inside your organization that had kind of provided you with this clarity which had a noticeable impact in how your products has improved, you know, I'd say in the last sort of 5 to 10 years?
I think there's always been that audience and the segmentation of who are our members, and we know who our members are. We do a lot of member insight. So we do ask our members a lot about what do they want next, what do they see, you know, how can we make your visits, you know, better, or, you know, do you want to work from the club, you know, what type of menu. So we do a hell of a lot of member insight, but I think actually we're very clear also on where we're trying to take people on a wellness journey, and we want them to be able to stay at the club. You know, we've built workspaces deliberately to be able to work from the club because we know hybrid working is what they do now. You know, what Steph has put from a spa retreat, oh my God, it's changed people's lives. And, you know, we just keep getting busier and busier, but the spa retreats are just beautiful. And that just shows you how much people want to go and relax or take some time out or feel that they're having time out. You know, we have these beautiful spa gardens, we have saunas and steam rooms and, you know, cold plunge. And it's actually where I believe a lot of the social connections happen as well. So people do feel when they go to a David Lloyd, you're there, you can just go for a workout if you want to, but it is much more of I'm going because it's a lifestyle. And I think that's really important. And I think we've probably made it much clearer within the business. We are a lifestyle brand. You know, we're not just interested in fitness, we're not just interested in paddle. We are all about the wellness of our consumers, what their journey is, and to be able to support them at every life stage. And that's the difference, you know, whether you're a young family, whether you're career driven, whether you're, you know, an affluent, you know, 45 plus, or you're 65 plus. Our role is to be able to support you throughout your whole journey so that you don't have to go anywhere else. And I think they've really, really put that to the forefront of we need to make sure we've got this journey created and that members are aware of how much they can do.
Are seated machines slowing your members down? With many people spending the whole day sitting in their car, at the office, and in front of screens, then you have to ask yourself, should you really be sitting down when you're exercising? As seated machines do not promote all body movement, then a solution that encourages standing, putting the body in an upright position, will make workouts more effective. Help your members break from sedentary habits with more active training. Are you interested in creating a more dynamic workout environment? Then contact us today.
It didn't seem as though it's like, I think before it's been a gym, like, and with other stuff. And I think when I went, I wouldn't describe David Lloyd as a gym. Like, I think it's got a great gym, but it was very, those other parts. And I know even the way I think you structure the organization and roles are also similar, but it, definitely seems as though you kind of like positioned it in a way which I think for the UK market make it very difficult for anyone else to sort of really compete with what you guys have got going on. So, congrats on that. I definitely recommend you check them out.
I would agree too. And I think from a value perspective, the closest comparisons I can give it to in the US are Lifetime or Equinox.
Yeah.
But you're actually a lot more valuable. In fact, you're not as expensive
Yes.
as some of those clubs are. And I kind of like the kids class. I've never heard of that before. That's really fun.
Our Rebels brand. That's what it's
the
called.
Rebels
our Rebels
brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have you back on for an extended.
Yeah, I think we'd have to get Michelle back on for a
longer,
deep dive.
deeper dive.
Deep dive. Now I'm worried.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Fabulous.
Michelle.
Pleasure. Nice.
All right, thank you. I'm pleased to have Benjamin Roth, the founder of Urban Sports Club, first time on L.I.F.T.S podcast, and we were just kind of talking before we got started. You founded the company in 2012, which is when I founded SweatWorks, so I know exactly that we're both 13 years old. We probably aged them more than 13 years in our times running the businesses. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
So we started in our 30s, we're now in our 40s. All the wearable bio-age stuff tells me that I'm in my 50s, which is like...
Really?
Yes, I did the eGym bio-age and flexibility, I'm like 51.
I'm surprised, you're shocked.
I know, I shouldn't be working with them anymore. This is not good. But maybe the other stuff, it's all about balance. I'm probably like younger on my cardio age versus the flexibility age. Anyways, thank you for coming on. And you recently were acquired by L.I.F.T S, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we had Michelle on earlier, who you did a panel, and talking about the boutique market. But one of the things that came up that I don't think any of us were aware of is there's this new sort of budget boutique market that's emerging. So tell us about that. Like what are some of the brands that started it, and probably what are some of the drivers in Europe that maybe hadn't been conditions for that to happen in places like London, New York, for example?
Yeah, I definitely believe that's a very interesting kind of phenomenon in the market right now, because we see that on the one hand, boutique fitness hasn't arrived in continental Europe for quite some time. Yeah, we have here and there a boutique fitness offering, but it's not comparable with London. You mentioned New York. So the whole topic that probably peaked, 2018, 2019 already in those cities is now coming to Germany, to France, to Spain. And it's still just getting started. We really see that the market is completely underserved, to say it, from that end when it comes to boutique. And how do we see that? On the one hand, we see how check-ins are developing, right? So we saw a 60% increase in check-ins for boutique from 2023 to 2024. That's one thing. But we also see that this special type of boutique fitness, and we just together with Liz on stage called it budget boutique, is growing super fast. And what makes it different to the premium boutique, as I would call it, as most people know it, is on one hand the price tag. So we see rather drop-in rates for 13, 14, 15 euro instead of 25, 30, 35 euro. That makes, of course, a clear difference. You also see that they are not going for massive investments into the brand. So brand it's a thing. You can definitely feel it and at every venue you go, but they're not heavily investing into that. Also not as much into community. So that's certainly a differentiation. And they have quite big classes. So classes are rather with 40 to 50 people. That we've seen also with in the premium sector, in partially at least.
That must the modality must be strongly impacted by being able to have such big large amount of people in there. I guess you can't do it with everything like you can do a traditional boutique.
Well, we've seen it with cycling, HIIT, but also, and that I think is the most surprising one, with Reformer Pilates. Yeah, so those, let's say, club Pilates units where you rather have 15, 20 people, and now doing that with twice as many people is certainly a different beast. And you can offer that at a different price point.
And that's with one instructor.
Second?
That's typically with one instructor in the boutique. So I guess if I'm thinking about budget boutique, a lot of what made boutique successful and strong, just think about SoulCycle as the gold standard, right, at the time. Yeah. They had the brand. It was people associated with the brand. They charged a premium. Some of them had like 70 bikes in it, but most of them were about 40 to 50 bikes in it. They had highly trained instructors that were also like motivational and really just good instructors, enthusiastic, had the energy, all of those things. So they invested in the experience, grapefruit candles, the gum when you walked in, right? You could even imagine what it smells like to go into SoulCycle. It immediately flipped you on. What is the attraction then to a budget boutique for a lot of consumers? I get the price, discounting, but what's the attraction?
I think several aspects. So the price is certainly a key element, right? Also the amount of supply available, right? It's you live in a part of, let's say you live in Berlin, you live in Mitte. Okay, then you have 2-3 boutique options to choose from, right? Because, as I said, the market is really underserved. And this is something really new. It's an experience-based workout. People haven't seen it. If you see brands, you mentioned maybe Barry's Bootcamp, Orange Theory, both of them have 2 venues in whole Germany. So you see also from that perspective that market really hasn't seen a lot of boutique venues, and that's where that topic is coming up. So there might be also let's say, for me, rather niche for the premium segment, but what we can definitely see is that this budget version is flying through the roof. So what we usually see is, for example, if they open up a new venue and they don't need to go to High Street, they can expect roughly 5,000 visitors just from us in month 1. Wow. So they get really quickly to operational break even, and that makes it, of course, very attractive then to scale those venues. Yeah. What
sort of time period have you been noticing that this type of model is existing? Like, is it just a phenomenon that's happened because new into the market, no competition, but it'll very quickly burn out, or do you see that there could be some genuine longevity around this idea?
No, first ones we probably saw 2018, 2019 in the Netherlands, in Germany, but still starting small. They all had also investors. Then COVID was tough, especially for concepts like that. But they got back quite fast after the pandemic, and they're now growing even faster.
What are some of the brands that you're familiar with?
Roth certainly would be one. So coming from the Netherlands, expanded to Belgium, Germany, now entering the US. So that's certainly a good example. Beat 81 is another one, quite strongly. So far, I think only in Germany, but looking to other markets as well. Yoga to the People, so also one. So usually, as I said, like brands you won't see in the media or something, but it's also not necessary. I believe those classes are usually sold out for the next 2 weeks.
Wow. And then you being with Urban Sports Club as a platform, you kind of are the marketing arm. So as an aggregator, you've really helped them drive participation and volume. If you just were to take a stab at, and you might not know this, or you might, what percentage would you say, like if you look at a boutique class, just take SoulCycle, that you are responsible for filling those seats in?
There's no general answer to that because it really depends on the go-to-market strategy of all of those brands, right? Some of them say, well, what we're going to do is we will not invest into marketing and sales at all. We will just work with aggregators, making sure that they fill up the spaces, and then they end up with 90% of aggregator visits. Some others say, well, no, we're going to limit it to 50%. So that really differs from concept to concept and how they want to scale.
You mentioned that the boutique market's still new for Central Europe. I know a lot of brands that have come and left thinking that it just doesn't work here. Do you see some of the more established brands that have got this whole concept dialed in, coming back and re-looking at Europe, maybe adjusting the model based on it being a slightly bigger footprint, and providing sort of competition again? Like how do you see that sort of happening from some of the the exponentials of the world, that type of business?
Yeah, the exponentials of this world. I think they probably struggled so far with some of those markets. But I still want to highlight there is a massive opportunity. I think in the end it's also a question how you go about in every country and region with your concept, and whether really a one-to-one copy of let's say a New York City approach works here. And there I have my doubts, or at least I think also that it's kind of proven, since you don't see them scaling while you see other concepts fly. So I think it's a massive opportunity, but for them it's rather, I believe, an opportunity to look how to pivot, maybe on a regional level. But it's of course a bit against the whole idea, I know, of the business concept behind it. But
you talked about community not being as important in boutique, or they're not investing in community. But community is so important in fitness, and it's a great retention tool. So I'm assuming there is a community. You've done a great job in urban sports club branding. Do you think people almost affiliate themselves, I'm a part of Urban Sports Club, rather than the boutique brand? Or where do you see the community coming from?
I think it's rather the aspect how I currently experience myself, how they treat community, right? So I would say there's not a lot of event afterwards, right? It's not that everyone, I don't know, claps hands together, knows everyone by name, something like that. Yes, some of them offer a shake, but most of them don't. So there is not a good reason to stay longer after the workout. Yeah, but there's no harm in it. Yeah? And that's why probably they kind of leave it aside, right? It's also kind of costly, and when it comes to staff costs, to kind of promote such a community. They do it on social media, but
do they celebrate things like milestones and birthdays, and do they still do that kind of? They don't either. Interesting. Okay.
What do you see any of these brands starting to, as they think about scaling, franchising, or do you think that type of model wouldn't work financially if they were to franchise?
It's a good question. I think that the ones that I see working the best and growing the fastest are not franchise concepts, but they just belong to one chain, and doing their thing, copy and paste basically what's working well. And then, of course, with boutique, it's always about strong staff, right? The trainers, you mentioned it earlier, super important, which is definitely a bottleneck in Europe. I always feel Americans are way more entertaining being on stage than us Europeans. So you need to kind of teach people here also how to motivate such a class and bring them up to speed. But yeah, that's certainly a bottleneck. But
it sounds like the key difference is just getting more people through the doors and simplifying the offering. Is that?
I think it's a volume game, and it's funny. Even in Cologne, I think there is a roll cycle in Cologne, I believe. Yeah, and I saw someone who I know was an instructor at a more major studio, went to roll cycle, and she's a good instructor. It's not like they're not getting good instructors. I think they still are getting really good instructors, but it's just teaching a larger class. And then I think the brand is not investing as much, unlike the birthdays, having the balloons, having the cupcake come out, like all the little stuff that I think is important if you're paying for that premium. You're paying $35 a class. You're gonna want that. You're gonna want that. But I think in the boutique one, I'd be curious to know, there's probably other innovations around front desk. Like they maybe don't need as many staff to run it, right? Would that be true? Like one of these locations could probably get run by 1 or 2 people.
Yeah. Probably there's one person at the reception and then one doing the class.
That's right.
If you think of the Pilates brand, who's a gentleman that we had on a couple of times on the podcast?
Ben from Euroformer?
No. What's the?
Oh, Brian from Solid Core.
Solid Core. Like they seem to have sort of evolved a model. Although it's Pilates based, it's kind of like one person at the front desk, lock the door, goes in, delivers the class. Like they seem to have stripped out some of the stuff. Like I don't know what they have in terms of numbers.
But they're a premium product.
But they're a premium, yeah. Yeah, but in terms
It's about 20 beds. So that example, they have 20 to 22 reformer beds. Right. It's a premium offering. In Ben, your example, you'd have 40 reformer beds potentially or more.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck on your new chapter. And,
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about budget boutiques.
Oh, I think we should go check it out. I'm going to go check it out.
Yeah, definitely try it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben. Jim Pisani, CEO and board member of L.I.F.T.S Hammer Strength. We twisted your arm a little bit to come on. We've been following you since you took on the role, and you just hit 2 years, which we're excited about. I guess start with the 2-year journey and also L.I.F.T.S Hammer Strength and the fact that you've kind of changed your name to include Hammer Strength.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I don't know about twisting my arm, but I definitely wanted to give myself a little bit of time and add some value before I came on. And I'm a podcast follower of the two of you, and as a newbie into the fitness industry, this is a great way to gain knowledge and understanding of what's going on in the environment marketplace. So thank you for having me. But yeah, to begin, it's been a great 2 years. I've really enjoyed not only getting into the fitness industry in general, but really understanding the team at L.I.F.T.S Hammer Strength, the culture. I mean, 55 years, if you think about that, of success and a history of being able to outfit some of the best clubs in the world and some of the best athletes as well. And as you stated, we recently changed our identity from just L.I.F.T.S to L.I.F.T.S Hammer Strength. And just a short story, I grew up on hammer strength. I played soccer, throughout my younger years all the way through college. And hammer strength was at Northern Illinois University, where I played Division I soccer. And, proud of that and humbled by the opportunity. But I knew right then, there is the functionality of equipment, and it does matter, both on the cardio and the strength side. And the simplicity and design of hammer strength, but the biomechanics of the plate loaded. I roomed with a couple football players that were much stronger than I was, but in soccer or international football, there are so many areas where you have to be able to break loose and have that burst, not just of speed, but strength. And we had a strength training coach back then that was really behind that. So when this came as an opportunity for me, coming over from Newell Brands, where I ran the outdoor division as the CEO of that company, in Chicago, where I lived, just a great fit, great opportunity for me. So yeah, the journey has been great, and we've really reset the business. And I'm proud of the work that the team, our 2,500 employees around the world, have been able to come together. And we were talking a little bit earlier before we came on. There was a level of this was a company that has had such great success and just needed to get right back on the right track, and really fundamentals has been really a focus for me and for the leadership team, which we brought in some new leaders, but we had an existing leadership team that was very strong and very capable.
It was interesting. We were also chatting as we were walking along here about FIBO, and how it's for me, it's been an important event on so many different levels. And it reminded me of a story. I think it was 1997 or 1998. I remember the first time I ever came to FIBO, walked through the front doors, and it was in Essen at the time, and there was a big booth, almost like as you came down the stairs, and it was hammer strength, but it was prior to L.I.F.T.S acquiring them. And to be fair, I'll never forget this sales guy, because he was a German guy, and he really loved the product, and he got me on and took me around everything. He said, this stuff is going to be huge. This is an amazing brand. We've just got the distribution of it here in Germany. And you could see his passion in the product. And that was, that's almost 30 years ago now. And it's amazing that the product itself and the category has almost sort of, come into fashion, slightly gone out of fashion, and today it's as popular as ever. We did some tours of some clubs in Germany just yesterday with some of the Fitness First clubs, and just talking to people, and L.I.F.T.S as well, and this is the brand that people want. So it's amazing how a relatively simple product, but great idea, really, really well made, has really stood the test of time.
We love the brand, but I think what's most important is we're finding, whether you're into strength training, whether you're into cardio, hammer strength has a loud voice. And what I noticed when I came on was we weren't talking about hammer strength as loud as we potentially could have. And so I've really pushed that, and we worked with a company out of the UK called Sin, who I've worked with at Timberland in my prior world. And they've done a nice job working with our marketing group and our commercial team to really set hammer strength up and understand the history and honor the history, but kind of what does it look like in the future? And, how are we going to, take innovation to the next level? And it's been exciting to go along with all the work that we're doing on the cardio side, with L.I.F.T.S and the Symbio line, as we were talking about how important, running is, and the running surface, I should say. And we take a lot of pride in our new Symbio line, the fact that it has an adjustable flex deck where you can run on very soft all the way to very hard. So we use it with the Chicago Fire, which is an MLS team, Major League Soccer, that we put on a program the last 6 months ago, I should say, and they love it, right? So one day they're playing on AstroTurf, the next they're on grass, it's raining, they can see the different levels of running, and it's just easier on the joints when they need to, because they're coming off of a road game and they're tired, but they still need to get the cardio. It really works. So for users like us that love to run, it's really value added.
I started training probably in the 90s, when I'm in my teenage years, and I remember the blue iconic hammer strength kind of equipment and doing lat pull downs, the rows. I think it might have been my first experience like an incline type of press, because it had a great incline machine. So it stood the test of time, and from a biomechanics perspective, I still think it's some of the best out there. The plate loaded machines are incredible. So you've got, a lot of people don't know this, but L.I.F.T.S as a brand, actually, for those of you who are new to the industry, invented the category. Like the fitness equipment category was kind of created in the commercial sense by the Life Cycle and L.I.F.T.S, and Chris Clausen did a great episode for us, I think in Riyadh, maybe about a year ago, where he talked us through the history of L.I.F.T.S. So you've got that iconic brand with another iconic brand in hammer strength, bringing it together, I think is a wonderful thing. But you also touched on the importance of cardio, and you launched this new line, Symbio, which I actually tried at HFA, and I was like blown away, because it was, I think, almost like you had to rethink the product. It wasn't an evolution. So my expectation going into that experience is that it's an evolution of what I knew of L.I.F.T.S, but it was a complete rethink. So you've invested in cardio at a time when people were investing in strength, and now you seem like the smart one, because cardio is back, right? Not that it's back, but it never kind of went away, but people put a lot of investment in strength. You invested in strength and cardio. Speak a bit about that and why cardio still is important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think everybody overreacts to market trends somewhat, and I think that's exactly what happened on the cardio side. It's not to say that treadmills and when you think about cross trainers and power mills and steppers, all those things are really ultimately important. But I heard when I came on that, cycling is dead, and we're not finding that at all. Our ICG brand, actually out of Germany here, which was an acquisition a few years back, is going strong. And so to your point, I do think that in my short period here, I can apply this to many industries. You have cyclical changes, but people go back to what's important, and ultimately cardio is critical, part of your overall performance and how you want to interact. I enjoy the idea of the changing dynamics of the business and the industry. And I think that's what we need to make sure, is that we're always on top of the trends, but also work closely with our customers and make sure that we're not overreacting and that we're bringing products that we believe in. And I think that's what, as we spoke to earlier, brands that have been around, have been successful for 55 plus years, are ones that are steadfast in the science behind it, the performance behind it, but also they're listening constantly to what's going on in the marketplace. And yes, I think you have to tweak and adjust. And I love the fact that you can understand through data how often your strength equipment is being utilized, how often cardio is being used, and you can adjust here and there. But I don't see anyone moving entirely away from cardio at some of the levels some people did. And you probably have had folks on and that have said, hey, maybe we did overreact a little bit to that.
You've come from a different industry, really. You mentioned Timberland. It's a well-known consumer brand. And the way products are developed and the cycles, fashion, I guess, is probably quite different to the business that you're in now, which is hard equipment, some of it like hammer strength will last forever. You know, you probably can go in gyms and it's 20, 30, 20 odd years old. Coming from a very different industry, when you got into the fitness equipment manufacturer space, and fitness equipment is a relatively new industry, to be honest, like what are some of the things that you notice? What are some of the similarities, but also what are some of the differences that are causing you to have to think in terms of your role as the CEO now in order to make that business successful?
You know, when you think about product development and where everything starts, you know, there's a clear discipline that you need to follow. And whether you're in my case, I started out in CPG, so I spent 11 years with PepsiCo. And whether it was Gatorade or Frito-Lay or Tropicana, there was a level of how do you make sure that you're following where the clear data tells you to go from an insights perspective, but then also what are those priorities that you make as a company and drive that strategy. So when I moved on from kind of consumer packaged goods into more fashion. Was the first thing was the licensed sports business, which I have to tell you was one of my favorite roles. I took a business with a great team. We had multiple sports licenses. So think about NFL, MLB, NHL, English Premier League. We also had a Harley-Davidson license. So you brought a little fashion in, but that's where I really learned about, the concept of making sure that when you're starting with the product and it, obviously you're sourcing. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about sourced finished goods and how that works, but the time frame from consumer packaged goods, when you start to get to apparel and footwear, and then also into equipment, it's much different, right? You have an 18-month, sometimes 12-month calendar to work off of, where in a CPG, you can turn things in weeks, months. So just getting an understanding of the planning that goes into that. Again, the consumer insights that play a role. And then just engineers and product developers and designers, they all come into play, more so when you think about footwear and outdoor equipment, and then now into, durable fitness equipment. So it's fascinating how that works. And the work that we were doing on the footwear and apparel, really diversification, kind of our overall support, and we call it source finished goods from that perspective. We worked hard on that and the logistics side of it, making sure that we had the ability to source product from different countries, so we weren't in a tough situation if something like a political challenge came on, like we're seeing here with tariffs and just the tightening and obviously inflation at this point as well.
Well, I think the CPG world has been evolving at an incredible pace over the last decade, and now you look at brands like Shein and Temu, they could make products, you talk about weeks, but in hours. If they see a trending on TikTok, within hours they're producing that product and putting it in the market. It's just, I cannot imagine being in that world. I mean, even looking back at my MBA time, they'd had to reinvent courses in terms of how that would even work. You mentioned tariffs, and we are in a climate today where we have, I think even, we have an office in Shenzhen and had to kind of plan for tariffs and what the impact of that could be. Obviously, in a much smaller capacity, you have a global operation, not just in manufacturing, but also in sales and distribution. The political climate is always going to be changing. And I think as executives, we are here to plan and navigate through the unexpected. But for a lot of people, this was more than what was the unexpected. And you still don't know what's going to happen. Something could change next week. Talk a bit about being a global brand. How do you plan? What type of contingencies do you have in place so that the impact or the blow is as mitigated as possible, both internally and also externally?
Yeah, obviously a hot topic, but I would say this. We've been planning for this from I've been here 2 years. And the diversification of the sourcing base for me was critical when we came on board. So we, as you said, we manufacture our product. We have 2 major state-of-the-art facilities in Minnesota, one in Ramsey, one in Owatonna, which gives us kind of that U.S. base. We also have a location in Hungary where we manufacture our strength. So we have strength and cardio in the U.S. and then strength in Hungary, which allows us that flexibility that we need to serve our customers. But then also from a sourcing, as you can imagine, all the components that we source in addition to manufacturing or bending or cutting, we're obviously doing a lot with paint and different structures within our manufacturing, but we also buy quite a few components. So making sure that we were diversified was critical for us, and that was some of the things that we've done and prior to me coming on board, I give credit to the team, that was actually a strategy as well. So for me, you're right, there's always going to be ebbs and flows, there's going to be changes in positioning, the macro economic trends, just the political environment is going to cause us to be able to be nimble, and that's really ultimately what we wanted to have. So we're still every day, there's so many changes going on, but we have a team which we actually did this more on the short term. The last 6 weeks, we've been meeting on a weekly basis as an executive team and then with our private equity firm, just to make sure that, hey, we're aligned, we're doing everything we can to protect our customers, make sure that we never skimp on quality in our service, but at the same time, doing what we can to make sure that our suppliers understand the scope of it, we understand it as a team, and so yes, we're constantly being able to adjust. But yesterday was another day, and so there was another change. So our team's together saying, how does that impact us? How does it impact our customer? What are some of the things that we can do besides already diversifying from the logistics? There's obviously design to value. There's simplification that you can implement. Making sure that you have the right inventory in place ahead of it is really key for us. So yeah, a lot of moving parts and a lot of communication that needs to take place to be successful.
One follow-up on that. Are you doing a price action or asking your suppliers to also bear some of the cost of that, or is this a price action where I'm assuming you're not going to give up too much margin on the product, but do you then pass that cost on to the customer? So, or is it a combination of all three?
The last. It's part of this is we all have to kind of weather this. So there's a level of negotiations that needs to go on between us and our suppliers. Certainly we have to unfortunately take some of it, and our customers are all going to have to come together. So what we've been very transparent, with our customers up front, sending out an early communication saying, hey, you're aware of what's going on. We want to be upfront and we're doing everything we can. So here's the 5 or 6 things we're doing that we believe will help us to navigate. But at the end of the day, we're all going to have to try to figure out, how we can move forward, because, we're in long-term partnerships. Our relationships that we've had with many of our customers have well dated, 25, 30 years. So last thing we want to do is be short-sighted with this. So we want to make sure we're coming up with a solution that makes sense for all of us. And that goes with our suppliers too. That you don't want to see them not be successful either.
It's a difficult question to answer, and I think we're all trying to figure it out. But where do you see this, from your personal perspective, not necessarily represented to your role in Life Fitness at the moment, but where do you see it ending? Obviously, this is some kind of negotiation tactic, and the goal is to bring it down. But what are your thoughts if it continues? And how do you think it's going to impact the industry? Is it going to slow things down? Because clearly, if you look at the US market specifically, there has been a slowdown in new builds because just the cost of construction alone and interest rates has been extremely high. So this is yet another blow to anybody that's building a location. And at some point, this is, it can't be totally absorbed. It's going to have to be realized. And I guess the concern is, over the course of the rest of this year, is there a feeling that it could slightly put the brakes on what started to be a very optimistic 2025?
Yeah, and it has. 24 was a real transformational year for us. 25 is off to a tremendous start. I think one of the things we're doing closely with our customers is making sure that we can navigate as much of this up front, right? Giving them the ability to purchase product and for us to deliver it within a period of time, so we don't hamper them or hamstring them in any way. So that's one thing that I think we can help. The second part of your question is really around, what is the long-term impact or even the short-term? I definitely think there'll be some deferring, whether it's a refresh, maybe, from a build out, even from a real estate perspective. I kind of, as you said, from a personal perspective, if you think about those things that you might want to do from a home improvement or, invest in something, you might say right now, I want to pause. I want to wait and see how this shakes out. My hope and what I believe is going to happen is a month from now, we're going to have a much more clarity around this. And I think things will settle down in the market. We're already seeing a little bit of the negotiation going on, and hopefully, calmer heads prevail, and there's a level of all of us being able to run our business, because there's nothing worse than trying to run a business when there's that type of uncertainty. So how do you invest when you're not sure where to go or how, what the next challenge is? So yeah, I'm optimistic that a month from now we'll be in a better place to assess it. I don't know if it's going to be fully at the level that I would personally like, but I think it will be much improved than where it is now, because what's happening right now is just too turbulent for anyone to try to manage through.
Jim, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
David Stalker, you are a repeat host. I don't know how many, a repeat guest on the podcast. You've been here, I was going to say host because you can probably host the thing too, but you've been here many times before, and you've just had such an incredible journey. I think last we spoke, which was it here or Riyadh? I forget where it was, but you were, your last post was CEO of MyZone, and you're now chairman of a board. We were just talking about that. You are also coming to the end of your tenure at another important role. So why don't we start there and talk about just your journey in the last year, what that's felt like, and what is coming next.
Yeah, I'm definitely can see the top of the escalator now. So let's accept that. I'm just finishing as president of EuropeActive. You mentioned MyZone, and I now sit on four boards. So the future for me.
How many more can you have?
Well, actually, to be honest, I sit on 4 boards and I work as an advisor for five companies. But it always sounds, and you get the obligatory LinkedIn post say you join their advisory board and how fantastic they are. They don't put in brackets the time you're doing for them.
That's right, yeah.
So the truth is, I don't want to change the output. I want to carry on trying to drive the industry forward. I guess I want to work from morning to evening, helping people who are developing in this industry. I've started a mentoring group, 6 people. I'm doing that just myself. I got approached by a lot of people to mentor, so I brought them together. They mentor each other and all that. I want to drive forward all those more people, more active, more often, our drive towards health, getting the community going with whatever company where I honestly, truly believe that that's what they want to do. And I truly believe that I like the people. I'm not trying to get into situations where I'm sorting out problems. But all businesses have problems. So I'm happy to get involved in people's challenges. But the big difference is I'll get up in the morning, I'll live your nightmare, I'll do my best to help you, I'll do everything I possibly can, I'll give you bad news, I'll give you good news, I'll give you ideas, I'll learn from you. And you know what, at 6 o'clock in the evening, it's not my problem. Yeah. Just simply, and I don't mean that in any nasty way, but as you can see, I'm now for the first time, I mean, I'm endless gadgets, but I've got this ring on, and the difference it has made, not the ring itself, but the data coming back in terms of being able to go to bed at 10 o'clock or whatever at night and wake up in the morning and look at that quality of sleep that is just beyond belief, because I'm not waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and thinking, how are we going to get through payroll? What's the challenge with that? Oh, there's a health and safety issue with that. Do those people really mean they're going to see?
They should have one of those tags, actually. They don't. I see like sauna and all kinds of things, but they don't have.
You can add the tag.
Yeah. Oh, you can write one yourself,
Yeah,
like worrying about payroll.
This is ultra human.
Ultra-human.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We both have auras, but
Yeah.
you can add the tags. But I agree. I mean, we're kind of gotten sleep obsessed a little bit.
Yeah.
On how bad our scores are sometimes. We didn't talk about our score. Did you look at your score this past night?
It's okay. It's in the 60s.
In the 60s.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was determined not to look at my score this morning because I had one of those nights of anticipation.
I just take it off when I have one of those nights.
But I did look at it. I wanted to look. I looked at my fingers. Oh no!
You're kind of peeking at it.
Don't
You're like
set me
looking
off
away.
like
You're peeking
this.
at it.
Yeah.
What's like, you're coming up to the end of your term with EuropeActive. Like, what would you, if you had to describe where the industry was when you came into the role, and sort of almost like giving it a bit of a 360, and where it is now, how would you sort of describe those two key points on your map?
At the beginning, it was enthusiastic entrepreneurs and people who were trying to drive forward and get forward the the reputation of our industry, and largely in terms of European terms on the back or replicating EuropeActive, which I'd been CEO of. So there was form to follow. So it was the industry and the industry leaders, we all know them, saying, yes, we can make a difference. But it was more entrepreneurial and visionary, and that was great. But what has happened over that time, and 11 years ago, first EHFF, I think 60 people, 570 there today. So we've moved that needle of people. But I think that those entrepreneurial vision we brought in people from other industries have come in, new people have joined it, we've become more sensible, we understand how we can impact. The pharmaceutical industry is stepping up and both saying, how do they work with us or against us? The nutritional industry. So the big thing is, if I go back to that sort of move from fitness to health, we were all really about fitness there, but we knew that health was important. Now I look at it and I get really excited because I think in that 10 years, I've seen that move from fitness to health, and people are really on that journey. That move to owning the community, they get it. I listen to people speak. I listen to people on your podcast, and I hear them talk about where they are with their communities. We need those standards. Are we going to hit on the market? Are we going to make a difference to people in terms of standards? We need to drive up the quality of our instructors, and they get it. So it's not so much that the visions have changed. It's just those entrepreneurial spirits who stuck us all in a room and all had their views and all had their enthusiasm have been joined by really academic thinkers, thought provokers, and made it possible for this platform to grow where now, yes, there is the possibility of impacting, whether it happened to be in Brussels or in Washington or wherever it happens to be. I do think that people talk about. So for me, I guess the next stage I want to see is just a single focus. Yeah, so you've got those other things, but I think if we can singly focus on that movement from fitness to health, and we can singly make an impact on that, communities are definite. We can't do that. But more, how many times do you see people, VAT shouldn't be on memberships and whatever it happens to be? For me, that's not an argument that's going to be very easy to have with governments.
I heard I heard you say that this morning about VAT, because at the end of the day, it's like, there's still an impression of gyms, and whether you like it or not, if you don't go to a gym, you have a perception of it. And I think, when I heard that conversation this morning, I think that's still going to be a tough one to convince them to take it away. And
it's not. I don't want to be the prophet of doom. I'd say it's an almost impossible conversation. You become health delivery partners, and it falls out of the back. It's a completely different way of getting to the same conclusion, and you're making a difference to society. Oh, guess what? Huge commercial benefits, almost for each operator. So my view is, it's really exciting, and there's still a lot of entrepreneurs in the market, but it's not just a set of entrepreneurs. It needed to be, but it's now entrepreneurs supported by professionals, supported by people from other industries, supported by experienced people from retail. It's extraordinary. New CEOs coming in, and they've been at this brand and that brand, and you just think this just is really exciting, because if we can master all that intelligence together and focus on that one mission. We've talked about this rocket ship. Well, I think it's off and running. It's just how much power we can put into that engine.
Well, it's really about the maturing of any industry. I mean, if you think about our industry, I'm new to it. I've been in it for about 13 years. You both have been in it for much longer than that. But the industry's only been around for about 50 or 60 years. That's really it. And to your point, David, we talked about this earlier, how many outsiders as executives have come into the industry. And I think that's a testament through the maturity that we've done to it. And it's an industry that largely has been built by people who are passionate about health and wellness, personal trainers that decided to open up a gym. That's been how a lot of gyms kind of got started. And now we've had the operational maturity where people from the outside could say, you know what, this is a place that I can go to that is passion driven, and I could help influence change, and it's got the scale, and more people are in it, and there's a lot of room to grow. And I think when you're in the industry and you're an insider, it's hard to see the opportunity on the outside. So to bring someone from the outside, to your point, coming in from a CPG industry or something else, they say, hey, you've only got 15% penetration in the UK or 20% in the US. Let's go after the other 80% of people.
And this is how we did it in our industry. And it was completely different, but let's take those principles and let's have a look at it. I'm close to, I would say, really close friends with so many people who were those people in this industry, and I respect everything but the people who really excite me are the people who are coming into the industry, because they are, they are going to raise this boat. They are doing.
I had the same observation this morning, and we chatted about it earlier. And I noticed that you looking at the sort of caliber of people that are in the room, and the depth of knowledge and experience shows that there's definitely confidence. I think from an investor perspective, there has been, unfortunately, examples of where things probably haven't gone in the right way, and I think that's continued to give the industry a little bit of a tarnished the perception, and I think so. Even though I think it's important to have some of the entrepreneurs that have really made the industry what it is, I think it's making sure that there's a balance between the two as well.
You couldn't be. We are responsible for a lot of the brakes that have been put on us, because we've done whatever, drive the highest price. But it was very easy going to with a private equity or the city. It was very easy to sell a story to it, and we made the mistake overselling the story, and they bought into it because generally the people who are making those decisions in the finance world are healthy people. So it kind of played to their mind. We got them along the story, and in some cases they were burnt, and we got back, and we were looked at as not professional. And the reason we were looked at as not professional, because we weren't really. But I think we are getting there. We've learned. Well, we had our wrists slapped, and I believe learned that lesson.
I guess it's sort of farewell, isn't it? Is that what we say now to you? Like, are you going to go off into the sunset, or are you sort of going to stick around?
I'm going to be around. I've decided I'll be coming back to these events, and I'm going to have a new job as the person who just kicks everyone back into the room.
I love that.
But, yeah.
Because they'll listen to you. Yeah.
So look, it's been fantastic, and thank you guys.
And thank you for everything. It's been
brilliant.
It's been good, and we'll get you back next year, and you can tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah,
Thank
brilliant.
you, Dave.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys.